We can start with the Mangalacharan. But first, let me welcome you. Thank you very much, Prabhuji, for joining us today. Please accept my humble obeisances on behalf of everybody who have joined the class and are about to join. Prabhuji, we are reading the Srimad Bhagavatam. We are on Canto 2, Chapter 3, and the text for today is text 20. But before we do that, we can recite the Mangalacharan. Prabhuji, would you like us to do the Mangalacharan or would you like to recite?
Please, thank you.
Do we have any volunteers to do the Mangalacharan or I can go ahead? Okay.
Mataji, you go ahead. I haven't done for a long time. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Okay. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Gnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurumilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurudve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Gurum Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishaka Vitamsya He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhayevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna,
Hare Hare,
Hare
Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna. Krishna, thank you for joining in. I will now hand over to Vidura Prabhuji. Prabhuji, over to you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. So today we are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 3, Text 20, Pure Devotional Service. And we're continuing. Yesterday you did a very famous verse, which Prabhupada quoted extensively. And I'm glad I didn't get that verse because I would have got a bit overboard on that one. But it's a wonderful, wonderful verse, and it brings us back to reality also. However, we're now on text 20. Vile Batoru Kramavi Kramam Ye Nashrin Vatakarna Pute Narasya Jiva Sati Dar Duruke Vasuta Nacho Pagaya Rurugaya Gataha Bile Snakeholes Bata like Urukrama the Lord who acts marvelously. Vikramam prowess, yea, all these. Na, never. Shrinvata, heard. Karna pute, the ear holes. Narasya, of the man. Jiva, tongue. Asati, useless. Dardarika of the frogs. Eva, exactly like that. Sutta, O Sutta Goswami. Na, never. Cha, also. Upagayati, chants loudly. Urugaya, worth singing. Gataha, songs. Translation. One who has not listened to the messages about the prowess and marvelous acts of the personality of Godhead, and has not sung or chanted loudly the worthy songs about the Lord, is to be considered to possess ear holes like the holes of snakes and a tongue like the tongue of a frog. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Devotional service to the Lord is rendered by all limbs or parts of the body. It is the transcendental dynamic force of the spirit soul. Therefore, a devotee is engaged 100% in the service of the Lord. One can engage in devotional service when the senses of the body are purified in relation with the Lord, and one can render service to the Lord with the help of all the senses. As such, the senses and the action of the senses are to be considered impure or materialistic, as long as they are employed only in sense gratification. The purified senses are engaged not in sense gratification, but in the service of the Lord in toto. The Lord is the supreme with all senses, and the servitor, who is part and parcel of the Lord, also has the same senses. Service to the Lord is the completely purified use of the senses as described in Bhagavad Gita. The Lord imparted instructions with full senses, and Arjuna received them with full senses, and thus there was a perfect exchange of sensible and logical understanding between the master and the disciple. Spiritual understanding is nothing like an electrical charge from the master to the disciple, as foolishly claimed by some propaganda mongers. Everything is full of sense and logic, and the exchange of views between the master and disciple is possible only when the reception is submissive and real. In Chaitanya Charitamrita it is said that one should receive the teaching of Lord Chaitanya with intellect and full senses, so that one can logically understand the great mission. In the impure state of a living being, the various senses are fully engaged in mundane affairs. If the ear is not engaged in the service of the Lord by hearing about him from Bhagavad Gita or Srimad Bhagavatam, certainly the holes of the ear will be filled with some rubbish. Therefore, the messages of Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam should be preached all over the world very loudly. That is the duty of a pure devotee who has actually heard about them from the perfect sources. Many want to speak something to others, but because they are not trained to speak on the subject matter of Vedic wisdom, they're all speaking nonsense, and people are receiving them with no sense. There are hundreds and thousands of sources for distributing mundane news of the world, and people of the world are also receiving it. Similarly, the people of the world should be taught to hear the transcendental topics of the Lord, and the devotee of the Lord must speak loudly so that they can hear. The frogs loudly croak, with the result that they invite the snakes to eat them. The human tongue is especially given for chanting the Vedic hymns and not for croaking like frogs. The word asati used in this verse is also significant. Asati means a woman who has become a prostitute. A prostitute has no reputation for good womanly qualities. Similarly, the tongue, which is given to the human being for chanting the Vedic hymns, will be considered a prostitute when engaged in chanting some mundane nonsense. Well, Om Jnana Timirandasya Ganangana Shalakaya Chaksharam Militam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Today's verse is no less strident. and purport from Srila Prabhupada than yesterday's. In fact, Srila Prabhupada gave a lecture on this very verse in 1972, June 16th in Los Angeles. And it's very, very, he has a different, slightly different angle to the way in which he gave the purport. The way I just read the purport, Prabhupada takes it from a different, the same, he goes into it more in depth. Pradyumna is reading the Sanskrit. Pradyumna was Prabhupada's Sanskrit editor. He traveled with Prabhupada all over the world, wherever Prabhupada went, because Prabhupada was translating. He didn't stop the translations because he was traveling. Wherever Prabhupada went, he would wake up at midnight or 1 a.m. in the morning and start his translation work, and Pradyumna traveled with him everywhere. So Pradyumna did the Sanskrit. And as Pradyumna was reading, because Pradyumna would read every morning when the Bhagavatam class was going on, as Pradyumna was reading, Prabhupada was correcting. No, and Pradyumna was a very good scholar of Sanskrit, really good. And he was like the topmost. Prabhupada used to, not jokingly, but in a humorous way, in an affectionate way, Prabhupada used to call Pradyumna Panditji. And he was a Pandit. And Prabhupada really, really loved Pradyumna, and he loved the way in which Pradyumna was streamlining the word for word and the translations in such a way that they could flow. Because we all know when you translate from one language to another, it's not easy to get you can literally translate what's there, but you can't always get the flow. That's why when I'm giving a class or reading from the Gita or Bhagavatam or Chaitanya Charitamrita or whatever, I never refer to the translation and the purport as coming from Prabhupada. The purport is coming from Prabhupada, but the translations, not all the translations come from Prabhupada. And then, of course, since in the last few years, of course, we had further editions and further editing of the books, but the purports are untouchable. They can't be touched. But the translations were done by different devotees, but mostly by Pradyumna, who was very, very expert in Sanskrit. But Prabhupada still, he would correct Pradyumna. No, you have to put an emphasis on this you. You have to say this letter with this emphasis because it changes the meaning, because it's sound, the Shabda Brahma. And they're coming from the wings of Garuda. And the vibration of the sound vibration, the Shabda Brahma, that because it's a transcendental sound vibration, just like you can say different things in English, the same spelling, the same word, spelt in the same way, have completely different meanings, but it depends on the way in which you say it. So Prabhupada is putting an emphasis here on hearing from the bona fide source, and in his lecture on this particular verse. And if we see Srila Prabhupada's pranam mantra, particularly the second part, the first part of the pranam mantras is usually recited for all the acharyas, all the gurus, and we just add in the name at the end. But the pranam mantra, the second part of the pranam mantra applies specifically to that particular acharya, that particular personality. So in our case, we say every time we're offering respects to Prabhupada, Namaste Sarasvati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Paschachade Shatarne, which means our respectful obeisances are unto you, O spiritual master, servant of Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati Goswami. You are kindly preaching the message of Lord Chaitanya Dev and delivering the Western countries, which are filled with impersonalism and voidism. So this is Prabhupada's special mission. And if we know, we hear Prabhupada's lectures all the time, and wherever Prabhupada lectured, he lectured on this, he smashed this impersonalism and voidism. So in his lecture in Los Angeles on this particular verse, text 20, Prabhupada is saying, so the impersonalists or the voidists, where is their God? You know, they may present themselves as renunciants, as sannyasis, and they may wear saffron and so on and so forth. And Prabhupada doesn't go directly into criticizing individual personalities in his classes. He never does that. But he always says, he never criticizes the individual. He always says, examine his philosophy, examine her philosophy, whatever the case may be. Somebody's claiming to be acharya, or in some cases, which used to drive Prabhupada particularly mad, somebody's claiming to be Bhagavan, and then Prabhupada would hone in. Prabhupada was very direct. You can see from the previous verse, which you covered yesterday, when the verse is calling hogs, dogs, camels, and asses. I mean, this is the actual verse. This is not Prabhupada venting his frustration on modern society. This is the actual verse, where the Bhagavatam is describing today's society as being comprised of nothing but hogs, dogs, camels, and asses. And Prabhupada goes into detail describing each one and how each member of society can be categorized as such. So Prabhupada didn't mince his words. I mean, we may go with a chamra and try to please the population and, trying to merge the philosophy of Krishna consciousness into modern society so as we can cater for the modern version of what, spirituality should be. And it's all, we love each other and we all hug a tree and all this kind of stuff. That's fine. But then Prabhupada comes directly to the point. So he says here, where is their God? So there is no God for them. Impersonalists. There's no activity. What they will hear and where will they chant? If they have no activity, what shall I hear? If you're a dead stone, what can I hear? These impersonalists, they are so unfortunate they cannot hear. As soon as there is some activity of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, what do they say? Oh, it is all Maya. So God is also in Maya for them. So we may imagine, and I've had this thought myself over the years. Why did Prabhupada emphasize and bark on about this impersonalist Mayavad, over and over and over again? Until it took me quite a while, because I'm Irish, a bit thick-headed. It took me quite a while to understand I'm the impersonalist. I'm the Mayavadi. I'm the voidist, because I do not dedicate myself to a person, to Krishna, to God as a person, because I've been conditioned by this impersonalist philosophy, which is coming from my cultural, religious, and spiritual background that I grew up in. And it doesn't only apply to me. It applies to all the Abrahamic religions. It applies also to Hinduism to a greater extent. Because Shankaracharya, let's face it, Lord Shiva, but he was given this thankless task by Krishna to reintroduce the Vedas back into society after the powerful influence of Lord Buddha. So the impersonalism, the voidism, are coming from these great, great personalities. So Lord Buddha, the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself, whom we adore, whom we worship, we completely reject his philosophy. This sounds completely insane. But Prabhupada came to rectify this. Prabhupada, can you imagine the task that Prabhupada was given? Not only to bring the holy names of the Lord to the Western society, but to rectify the impersonal philosophy of Shankaracharya and the voidism of Lord Buddha. I mean, what a task. And this philosophy is impregnated into the very fabric of the core of all the religions of the world, including Hinduism. It's not like the Hinduism escapes it. I mean, the biggest philosophers in India are coming from the Shankaracharya school. And this is a fact. And for the most part, it's changing. It's changing because of the influence of Srila Prabhupada on India and the whole spirituality of India, that's changing because of Prabhupada's influence. And people are taking on a more personalistic approach to the philosophy of Krishna consciousness. But Prabhupada goes on to say, they're claiming that this Maya, this is all Mayavad. Our activity is Maya, and therefore God's activities are also Maya. This is their claim. A poor fund of knowledge, or rascaldom. Prabhupada calls it rascal. He uses this word a lot. Because I cannot do this, whatever it may be, therefore God cannot do it. So it's not within my imagination to be capable of performing such an activity, so that God cannot do it. This is it. Big sannyasis explain like that. When I am pleased, Prabhupada is quoting these big sannyasis, when I am pleased, God is pleased. When I am dissatisfied, God is dissatisfied. This is the claim. Can you imagine? So I'm the center of the universe, not God. And Prabhupada always went on about this Daridra Narayan claim from Gandhi, that everybody is a poor Narayan. And Prabhupada said, how can Narayan end up in the street as a beggar? This is Narayan. If you're Narayan, or you're God, then can you understand what's going on in my heart? Can you understand what's going on in my mind? Can you read my head? This is this claim to be God that so many of them claim. I mean, it may seem like it's an esoteric thing that we really don't need to get into, but we do. We do. We need to get into this subject deeply. This is Prabhupada's pranam mantra. This is the mantra that we recite every time we do puja, every time we do Guru Puja to Prabhupada. You are kindly preaching the message of Lord Chaitanya Dev and delivering the Western countries which are filled with impersonalism and voidism. And it's not only the Western countries, it's the world, it's the planet. That's why we're in the mess that we're in. And who was Prabhupada speaking of when he was quoting that if when I am pleased, God is pleased, when I am dissatisfied, God is dissatisfied, blah, blah, blah. He's speaking of Ramakrishna. Ramakrishna, who's eulogized in India today. Just last year, there was one brahmachari who gave a lecture, and he mentioned something very, very innocuous, something very simple, where he mentioned about Ramakrishna in a lecture, and it was being broadcast, and practically speaking, he was kicked out of the temple because it was such a hue and cry about what he said. He was just quoting Prabhupada, but it wasn't allowed. Even in the ISKCON temple, it wasn't allowed to repeat Prabhupada's words. What are we afraid of? We really have to be bold. We have to stand up and tell people, you're in Maya. And if somebody tells me I'm in Maya, I'll accept it. Yes, I'm in Maya. Why would I defend the fact that I'm in Maya when I know perfectly well, philosophically, I'm in Maya? What is there to defend? There's nothing to defend. So Prabhupada goes on to give the example. We are dancing here in our ballroom dance in the material world. So this is material Maya. Therefore, Krishna is dancing with the gopis. That is also Maya. This is the Mayavadi mentality. And we know we don't want to name them. We know the big religions who are coming from the Hindu Dharma, if we can call it that, who say that Krishna is in hell. We know them. Oh, no, don't say that. No, don't say that. We can't criticize. But Prabhupada was criticizing. We're Prabhupada Nugas. Obviously, we don't go out into the street and stick it in somebody's face that, you're in Maya, Prabhu. This is not what we're doing. This is not our act. We're not going out of our way to criticize other spiritualities and other religions and other followers of other dharmas. That's not. But at the same time, we cannot allow ourselves to be influenced by this philosophy. We may understand what is the tattva. We may understand the siddhanta, the conclusion to what the scriptures, the shastra is teaching us. And to a certain extent, so as not to upset too many people, we keep it to ourselves. But at the same time, If we allow ourselves to become influenced by this, then what hope is there? All in the name of, cultivating this vox populi, this, popular opinion. And we go along with it and we say, oh yes, no, we don't want to offend anybody. No, that's true. We don't want to offend anybody. We do want to take the position of Trinada Pisu Nichina Tarora Pisa Hishtana Manina Manidena Katanya Sadari. That's our garland that we wear around our neck. We want to be humble. We are humble. We should be humble. We don't want to be challenging anybody. But at the same time, if we find that we ourselves are not cognizant, not aware of the philosophy, and we can be overcome by the first Mayavadi that we meet, and immediately he or she, they open their mouth and then immediately we just fall apart and we don't know what we're talking about. That's not where then that influences our spiritual life. And then we don't go to Goloka Vrindavan at the end of this life, we go somewhere else. It may appear to be all pious and piety and spirituality and everything like that, but why did Prabhupada choose this? Prabhupada wrote his own pranam mantra. His own. This is unheard of in our sampradaya. No acharya in our line has ever written his own pranam mantra. Because he would gather disciples, Lord Chaitanya would gather disciples, Narottam Das Thakur, Srinivasacharya, Sanatan Goswami, they would gather disciples. Naturally, they would gravitate towards those kinds of personalities, all in our line, extremely elevated personalities. But their disciples would write the pranam mantra for them because they were well versed in the scripture. They were well versed in Sanskrit. They were well versed in Bengali, whatever the case was at the time. But Prabhupada was preaching to hippies. Prabhupada was preaching in New York. What did we know about Sanskrit or Bengali or Krishna or Chaitanya or anything? We couldn't write anything, and we couldn't even pronounce the Maha Mantra. So Prabhupada had to write it and suggest a name. Even the name Prabhupada was suggested by Prabhupada himself. But what shall we call you? Because all the devotees were calling Prabhupada Swami. Because it was kind of like an impersonal, in the early days, everybody would say, oh yeah, Swami said this, and Swami said that, and Swami said, do it like this, and Swami said, you chop the vegetables like this, and Swami, everybody was calling Swami. But it's kind of like, so then there was the suggestion was made, what should we, well, Prabhupada said, he made some suggestions. He said, well, sometimes you say Vishnupad, or you could say Prabhupada. So he left it up to the disciples. So then finally the disciples settled on Prabhupada. And then he was given a lot of criticism by his godbrothers because Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj, he had the same name. So Prabhupada said to the critics, you will not find the word Prabhupada on any of my literature, on any of my books, on any of my letterheads. The word Prabhupada does not exist. So then I don't call myself that. My disciples call me that. So then it was later, then when it gradually became to be accepted, then Prabhupada put the word Prabhupada on his books and on his literature, never on his letterhead. He would always write A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami. So, there's history to everything. And Prabhupada goes on to say about this verse, this is their happiness because they have no experience. There is another life going back to home, back to Godhead. There is also Krishna is eating, Krishna is dancing, Krishna is playing, Krishna is killing. Krishna's killing. Putana didn't die, because, she had a heart attack. Krishna killed her. Krishna killed so many demons. He chastised the Kaliya. He killed the Aghasura. He killed Kamsa, his uncle, his maternal uncle. Who in the right mind, in this, even today, in the middle of Kali Yuga, who in the right mind would kill their kaka? Nobody would think of it. It's like, what? You killed your uncle? It's like, it's a grave sin. But because Krishna did it, it's transcendental, it's glorious, it's glorified. We put on plays about it and drama, and we eulogize about it, and we write poetry about it because Krishna did it. Joseph Prabhupada gives the example. You do the same thing. You go out into the war, you're told by the officer, you're going out, you're going into this battle, you kill, you shoot, blah, 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 so many soldiers die. You come home and you shoot somebody on your main street in your own hometown, you go to prison. It's completely different. Completely different. Even in the material sense, that's one example. So what to speak of the transcendental sense? They're all transcendental activities, Prabhupada is saying. Everything is there. Here, in this material world, only perverted reflection. False reflection only. That's all they know. So Prabhupada goes on to speak about the rasas. What is that relationship? If we have a personal relationship, what is that relationship? So Santa Ras, Dasya Ras, Sakya Ras, Vatsalya Ras, Madhurya Ras. And Prabhupada goes on to explain the different aspects of each ras. So you can be having a servitude, or a friend, or a parent, or a sibling, or Madhurya. And this is our objective. This is our goal. This is our sampradaya. Madhurya, Gaur Premanandi. So then intimate conjugal love, just like a young boy and a young girl. But the problem is, in the material world, it's all a perverted reflection. And we take it for real, but it's not. So all the rasas, Prabhupada is going on to explain from the Mayavadi point of view, they reject. Just like sometimes, Prabhupada gives us an example again. Sometimes you're taking sweet rice, and somehow or other somebody spills some sand in the sweet rice. So you're eating the sweet rice, it's tasting sweet, but there's that crunching bit of sand, it's mixed in the sweet rice. So it's like rasabas, it completely destroys the whole. So then the Mayavadis, they say, reject it all. Reject the whole thing. Throw the baby out with the bathwater. This is a mistake. And that would be okay if that was just one individual feeling that way, or rejecting the philosophy of Krishna consciousness in that way because he had a negative experience to some degree with maybe somebody who was teaching him or her, or whatever the case. But the problem is, this is a sampradaya coming with this impersonalism, and it's coming from the strongest of personalities. And then on top of it, mixed in with all of this, then you have Kali and you have Maya, and you throw all this into the mix. How on earth do we even do what we're doing to the smallest extent, or the limited extent that we have made some advancement in Krishna consciousness? It's next to impossible. But it's only possible because of the mercy of Guru. Because Prabhupada desires it, it's happening. We are in such an amazing position. We have received the mercy of Prabhupada. We may not have met Prabhupada directly, but we're receiving his mercy through his Vani, through his books, through his instructions, through his lectures, through his example, through his Leela. Our position, Prabhupada says, is above all of this. Completely. The karmis, they are on the material field. They're trying to enjoy the material platform. Gyanis, they're trying to enjoy variety less, no variety. And the Buddhists, they're trying to make it zero. Our philosophy is substance. Substance. This is different. Substance, reality. Vastava vastu, Prabhupada describes it as that. Vastava vastu, Real reality, not the false thing. That's what we go for. And when we get a glimpse into that, it may be just a little glimpse. It may be just the curtain just opens momentarily, like the curtain of Balaji. It just opens momentarily and you have to grab the darshan. It may be like that in our head, that we get a glimpse into real aspects of the philosophy, but that glimpse is enough to keep us going, and then to search for more and more and more, and go deeper and deeper and deeper. This is what we're after. This is what we need. We won't be satisfied with anything else. We'll all go in different directions and be wandering around in the material world forever. Now's the time to grab it and to really take it seriously. These people, these voidists, Prabhupada says, because they have no information of the Supreme Lord, and this is not our case. So there's no excuse for remaining voidists or impersonalists. Prabhupada says they have no information of the Supreme Lord and his activities. His activities are there. Krishna is coming, showing his activity. He's showing. But they will say, oh, it is Maya. Krishna is Maya. The rascal does not know that Krishna has no within and without. That's why Prabhupada criticized Ramakrishna. He used to claim, oh, it's not the worship, because Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, worship me. It doesn't mean to worship me, it means to worship the spirit within Krishna. Prabhupada says there's no Krishna within or without. Krishna is absolute. Otherwise, there's no meaning of absolute. When there is duality, how can there be absolute? It's impossible. That sense they haven't got. That's the difference. There was one thing when I was there in Nakuru with Manasiganga. We were talking. One guest, I think, asked the question, what's the difference between this temple and a Hindu temple? And Manasiganga answered the question, and she said it so perfectly. She said, well, our temple, the ISKCON temple, is a school. It's a teaching temple. We teach people. Yes, there may be the deity there in the Hindu temple. We go along for the darshan, and there's very famous temples in India that we all go, and we're very honored and very privileged to be allowed darshan. Some temples we're not allowed into, because if you have a Western body. But where we can go and get the darshan, it's a privilege. But you don't get a Bhagavatam class in those temples. You don't get a Bhagavad Gita class in those temples. Prabhupada changed the whole aspect of the way spirituality works. Look, he was a reformer. He was the greatest reformer. Look what he brought to the world. Teaching the deepest philosophy, right up to Rasa Leela, from Bhagavad Gita, Chaitanya Charitamrita, the deepest, to completely and totally fallen souls. That's where he started off. He went right into the heart of Kali, right into the heart of Kali, into the deepest, darkest part of New York City, and ripped out Kali's heart. And all we have to do is simply relish the prasad that he has left us. And even that we find difficult. There's no within or without. We are living entities, ordinary living entities. I am soul, I am within this body, I am not this body, Prabhupada says. But Krishna is not like that. Krishna is body and soul together. He's one. Therefore, because Krishna is absolute, he's nothing to do with material or spiritual. People say, oh, why is there evil in the world? Why did God create this, this world of duality? Prabhupada, hey, there's an answer for everything. And it comes from Prabhupada. Every single time it comes from Prabhupada. Prabhupada says, just another example, just like the government. Government has got many departments. Prabhupada gives the example of the government has education department, but the government also has a criminal department. They're both departments of government. One is for elevation, the other is for punishment. But they're both departments of the same government. They're both part of the same state. In this department, government is so liberal, giving education. People are becoming learned, enjoying. In this department, government is discriminating. This department is favorable, and this department is not favorable. But they're both departments of the same state, the same government. And probably gives that famous example, just like the drop of water. It is also salty, the same ingredients. Similarly, we have got a little independence. That's the problem. Because without independence, you can't have love. It's not possible. Love cannot be forced. That's where the Abrahamic religions, they fall short. They think that love of God has to be based on a threat. Take the threat away, and what are you left with? You're left with complete and total anarchy. So what is that threat? The threat of hell. You take that threat away, and what to speak of the understanding of God being a person? That's inconceivable in some cases. In some of the Abrahamic religions, if you claim that God is a person, you can be stoned to death. Or you have the idea that God has a form and God has a shape. You'll immediately be killed. Or to even describe that God has a form or God has a shape. Yet they all say, the Torah, the Quran, the Bible, that we all sit at the right hand of God when we attain the ultimate reality. So we're all sitting at the right hand of God after we leave this material world. And how does God have a right hand? It's just a symbolic right hand just sitting there in the sky, and we sit at the hand. So I have a face, I have eyes, I have a nose, I have a mouth, I have intelligence, I have a form, and God doesn't. So I have something more than God. Yet I'm a produce. I'm coming from God. So I have something more than him. It's inconceivable. It's just a misunderstanding. And the problem is the majority of the planet is going in this direction. But Krishna consciousness, you have independence, just like you're taking the Krishna. Out of our own independence, we come to this philosophy. And out of our own independence that we're taking to it. It's not obligatory, but the door is open for everyone. But who has taken it up? One who is intelligent, he's taken to it, Prabhupada is saying. That is due to independence. And some of our boys and girls, Prabhupada goes on to say, are again also falling back. After remaining for a few years, again he falls back again into hodgepodge. Due to misuse again of independence. This is it. We're all independent. Krishna is independent. I'm independent. I'm a part of Krishna. I have some of the qualities of Krishna. Can you imagine? So that is independent. It works both ways. It's not a one-way street. That's the misunderstanding that we have in our relationship with Bhagavan. We think it's a one-way street, that we have to worship him. No, he is coming towards us just as much as we are going towards him. It's a two-way, it's a reciprocation of love, a reciprocation of bhakti. So Prabhupada goes on to say, so because God has given us a little independence, therefore there must be two departments, material and spiritual. So because the material side is under our control, because we are independent, therefore you have evil. Because it's being created, the greed, the lust, the arrogance is created by us. It's not coming from the spiritual world, these qualities. Otherwise, there is nothing material. Everything is spiritual because everything is coming from Krishna. Nothing will exist. Not a single atom can exist without him. Material is called Maya because those who are on a poor fund of knowledge, they cannot see Krishna's spiritual energy. They are covered. Therefore, they are called Mayavadi. So the unfortunate Mayavadi cannot chant. They criticize, this chanting is sentimentalism. And they do. They do. Even Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he was criticized at Benares when he was chanting. And Prabhupada goes on to tell the story, Prakashananda Sarasvati, he was criticizing Mahaprabhu because he saw Mahaprabhu as a sannyasi, he's carrying a danda, he's in saffron, and he's out on the street and chanting and glorifying the names of Krishna. But the real business, as far as Prakashananda Sarasvati was concerned, was study Vedanta. Because again, he's coming from the school of Shankaracharya. And Prakashananda Sarasvati, he had 60,000 disciples. 60,000 disciples in Benares. He was no small pushover. And he was well versed in Vedanta. And he had a whole conversation with Mahaprabhu on the nature of Vedanta. And what happened? He was defeated. Immediately he surrendered, along with all of his disciples, to Mahaprabhu and became his follower. So Prabhupada was emphasizing this. We don't want to be just, appearing to be simpletons. We also should know the philosophy. So when we encounter obstacles on the path, and those obstacles on the path are not meant to challenge us as an institution, the obstacles on the path are meant to challenge us as individuals. So if we become contaminated with a doubt, remember in Bhagavad Gita, remember the Bhagavad Gita? What was Arjuna's problem? He had a doubt. And at the end, when he surrendered, he said, Krishna, now my doubts have been overcome. Now I'm a soul surrendered unto you. Please instruct me. So the doubt, this is our downfall, this doubt. And we have to kick it out, really kick it out, because it drags us down like anything. Prabhupada says, if you become devotee, the gyan is to defeat this Mayavad philosophy will be revealed to you. And that's a fact. We just have to surrender. The knowledge, the understanding will come automatically. You don't have to be a great big scholar. What do I know about Sanskrit? I can hardly remember a shloka. But because, we try to surrender to the orders of Guru and Krishna, then, they automatically, matasmrita jnanam apohanam cha. Do we believe this or do we not? From me comes knowledge, remembrance, or forgetfulness. No, it comes from my intellect. It comes from my brain. It comes from my academics. No, it doesn't. It comes from the mercy of Guru and Krishna. Just open your mouth and surrender, and it comes out. That's all we have to do. Just, Prabhupada said himself, Prabhupada's the greatest acharya in history since time immemorial. There's no Prabhupada, there's no other Prabhupada in existence. And Prabhupada says, I didn't write these books. Krishna wrote them. I just copied what Krishna told me to write. Can you imagine? Look at these purports. Every word has meaning. Every word has substance. As soon as Krishna sees, he's very sincere, he's doing seriously, he will give you intelligence. Buddhi yogam. Remember that verse? Dadami buddhi yogam tam yena mama payanti te. This is it. Dadami buddhi yogam. Buddhi, intelligence. It comes from Krishna. Krishna says it in Bhagavad Gita, but we don't believe it, we don't read it, we don't listen to it, we don't understand it, we don't even take it into consideration. We just read the shlok and blah, blah, blah. We have really, really got to get to grips with this philosophy. Krishna will give you intelligence. It's not difficult. Don't talk nonsense. He talks, but talking nonsense, that's useless. So when you are above the nonsensical platform by sincere service, then Krishna will talk with you from within through the Paramatma. Automatically. So one who has not listened to the message about the prowess and the marvelous acts of the personality of Godhead, as described in today's verse, one who has not listened, Mayavadis, they have ears, but they cannot hear. Jesus said the same thing. They have ears, they cannot hear. They have eyes, they cannot see. This is a direct quote from the Bible. Because Jesus himself was a Shaktivesha avatar. He gave up his life for preaching the mission of God. They will reject. Oh, it's all Maya, let us meditate. Meditate. So their ear holes are compared with snake holes. Useless. The frogs, Prabhupada goes on to say, we have experience of the frogs, especially in places like India and in Africa. We have the spirit in the rainy season, particularly croaking at night to use their tongue very nicely. What is the result of their singing? We all know the result. They're croaking at night. The snake, oh, here's the frog. And the snake follows the sound and gobble up. So we're the same. If we're just engaged in Gramya Katha instead of Krishna Katha, then we're just croaking just like the frog. And what happens? Maya, in the form of time, in the form of the snake of time, just comes along and blop, we're gone. We don't want that. Why waste it? Don't waste time. Prabhupada said that so many times. The same ear holes, the same message. You can listen to the radio, watch Al Jazeera and the BBC and all this kind of stuff, materialistic news, advertisement, movies, so many things you can hear. In the same ear holes, you can hear Krishna. Independence, the choice is ours. It's not a question of being fanatical, we just block out the world and it doesn't exist. No, we become part of the world, but we're transcendental to it. Completely transcendental. So the hearing is there, but when you hear something for sense gratification, that is material. And when you hear something about Krishna, that is spiritual. The same activity, the same, exactly the same. But the world of difference. One will save you, one will drag you down to hell. Change the consciousness to Krishna consciousness. For that purpose, Sarvapadi Vinir Muktan. We know that famous verse. Prabhupada quoted so often from the Madhya Lila. It's actually from Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, or I think Narada Muni compiled that verse. But it's in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. Sarvapadi Vinir Muktam Tat Parat Vena Nirmalam. Bhakti, or devotional service, means engaging all our senses in the service of the Lord, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the master of all senses. When the spirit soul renders service unto the Supreme, there are two side effects. You know the side effects of medicine. Sometimes you take the wrong medicine, you get good effects and bad effects. But when we engage in bhakti, what is the side effect? One is freed from all material designations and one's senses are purified simply by being employed in the service of the Lord. So that's it. Simply by being employed in the service of the Lord. We become freed of all material designations. So today's verses, this whole section of the Bhagavatam, it's not called pure devotional service for nothing. And like we mentioned before, Prabhupada didn't know at this stage how long he was going to remain, how long he was going to live. He was ill. He just had a heart attack. He suffered a heart attack on the boat going to America. He suffered a heart attack in New York. The devotees had to, spring him out of the hospital before the doctors finally finished him off. He was undergoing so much trial and tribulation. He went back to India to recover. So he invested all of his energy into these first two cantos. Huge amount of energy into these purports. They're loaded with Siddhanta, loaded with Tattva, because we're getting the message from one who has seen the Tattva Darshani is Prabhupada. He has seen it. So one who has not listened to the messages about the prowess and marvelous acts of the personality of Godhead and has not sung or chanted loudly the worthy songs about the Lord is to be considered to possess ear holes like the holes of snakes and a tongue like the tongue of a frog. Thank you very much for being so patient and kind to listen to me. And if you have any questions or comments, please, I'd like to hear whatever you have to say. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you very much. I just would like a clarification. Prabhuji, what did you mean when you said when there is duality, there is no absolute? I didn't understand.
Duality means it's either spiritual or material, but everything is spiritual. There probably explains there is no duality. Duality in the sense that he was explaining in that particular instance about Ramakrishna claiming that we shouldn't worship Krishna, we should worship the spirit within Krishna. Prabhupada said this is duality. There's no difference between inside and outside. Krishna is spiritual. And even the material world, in a sense, is also spiritual because it's Krishna's expanded energy, external energy. So it's coming from Krishna. So there's not a single blade of grass moves without Krishna's permission, as we read from scripture. And every single atom is containing the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He's there in every single atom. But at the same time, it's his external energy. And that is acting like the external energy, like my body has no use. My body will be the same as soon as the spirit leaves it. The body won't change. The body will, of course, it'll be dead. But I appear to have movement because the spirit is there. So there's a difference between my body and what I see and what I engage with and me as a person. Me as a person, I probably never have seen. But when we engage in that way, then we can understand that the duality is our mind thinking there's a separation between spirituality and material. There isn't. But there is. And Lord Chaitanya, and this is, I understand your question and I understand where you're coming from. And it is a very simple answer that I've just given, but it's not a simple subject. It's a complex subject. But Lord Chaitanya has explained it again. But again, we're going to get eventually to the Chaitanya Charitamrita, but that's in a whole different ballpark. And Lord Chaitanya explains it as Achinta Beda Beda Tattva. At the same time, one, at the same time, different. So we are part and parcel of Krishna. I am spirit soul. So I am part and parcel of Krishna, but at the same time, I'm separate because I'm independent. So the material world is also independent, but at the same time, it's connected, like the sun and the sunshine. Very nice question. Yes. And to get into that one, that'll take a few volumes, quite a few volumes. Very nice question. Thank you very much for that.
Thank you. Thank you, Prabhuji, for clarifying that. I'll think about it as well.
Yes.
And try to understand it. And another clarification is the wings of the Garuda makes a transcendental sound.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
It's either Garuda or Brahma's swan. I always get the two
No,
mixed up.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Hare Krishna Mataji. It's
Haribol.
when Garuda flaps his wings, the Sama Veda is recited. Sama
Yes.
Veda
Yes.
it garners from the wings of
Yes.
Garuda. Yes.
Yes.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you. Very nice class. We're
Thank
talking
you.
about the normal Hindu temple and our ISKCON temple. You know, when we go into our ISKCON temple, there is always like a nice kirtan going on, or the Prabhupada the tape is going on, or arti, or people are talking to you, receiving you nicely. On the first of this New Year, we went to a Hindu temple. There's one little Jagannath temple very far, so we didn't go there. We went to a Hindu temple nearby just to see the deities, and it was like I'm telling my daughter, is this a temple? So quiet. So many people in the temple. Nobody talks to you. Nobody welcomes you. Nobody introduces you. There's sibling. You want to offer some water. You are not allowed. One pandit is sitting in a corner. I don't know, preparing for the yagna, for the fire sacrifice. But nobody. And only you see, back door is opening. People is coming in, going out. Back door is opening. People coming in, going. People who are coming, not even a hello, a hi, a namaste, or nothing. And we sat there. It was cold like anything. So we sat there. And then we realized that at 11 o'clock, they're going to start the fire sacrifice. And I said, it's not nice. Once you start, we cannot leave. So we better leave before, because it was not a good environment comparing to our ISKCON temple where you go. Even people don't know you. Hare Krishna, Mataji, Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, offer you prasadam, offer you a book, or talk to you. It's a world difference. It's a world difference, Prabhuji. World difference. I sense it. I sense it really. Yeah. And also, you are talking about Prakashananda. He became followers of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Similarly, we see Sankaracharya when he came. But he was preaching the impersonalist. Then before leaving, he told everybody, Bhaja Govinda, Bhaja Govinda, Bhaja Govinda, Mudha say, oh fool, oh foolish, Bhaja Govinda. He realized Govinda is the only shelter for everyone. Yes. Very nice class, Prabhuji. Very good explanation. But yes, as Mataji have asked a question, I would like to have an answer also. And it would be nice. And actually, we are here, a little group here. We are deciding to have a question and answer class on a Saturday for only half an hour. So only half an hour. So you are based in Ireland, Prabhuji. Where are you based?
I'm in Birmingham.
So your time, it will be 8 o'clock at night.
Yes.
So if you wish, I would like to have your insight and your answers and your knowledge, So I will share if Kritika also can join. I don't know if it's 8 o'clock in UK. What time will it be in Kenya?
11.
Oh, it will be a bit too late for her. But otherwise, I would like to get few people.
Kritika never sleeps.
Oh, I know her. She is like a robot, running around, and she has patience and this capacity. Is Krishna's mercy on her. She has been through so much lately, but it's Krishna's mercy. Yes, Prabhuji. Because we got so many questions that even like so-called senior devotees cannot give you a right answer. So last time I got an answer that not all of us has come from Golok Vrindavan. So how come? We are all part and parcel of Krishna. How come somebody, senior devotee, said, no, we don't come from. So where do we come from? So,
this is the perennial question. This is
yes.
There's been many fights about this one.
Yes, but then Prabhuji, when I'm ready, when I'll post it, and please do attend only for half an hour. I don't drag it. I will not have any prayers. I'll just say pranam mantra for Sri Prabhupada, and we'll start our question. And it doesn't matter how small the question is. Even if we don't know, we will take it and look into it. And the thing is also, because we read from different perspectives, we get different views, different answers depending on our knowledge. So somebody may get a higher knowledge, some having a higher knowledge get a better answer. So we can all put our answers together and discuss about it. That is my goal. It's not to show I know more, you know more. No. It's just to get the best out of it.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. That's what Prabhupada introduced that system also, which Prabhupada called Ishtagoshti, where we churn the ocean of the philosophy. And we don't have to be big scholar or a great big academic. We just have to reveal ourselves in confidence to each other.
Yes. Yes.
And
Yes.
I mean, as you can see from the many sessions that we've had together, I don't have the answer to all the questions.
No,
But, you know,
we don't.
but just to churn it, so somebody will come out with something, and then we can go forward, all of us together, bit by bit, step by step.
There are some people, sometimes they are there just to wait for the flow, for the little mistake you make, and they pick on it. That
Yes.
also I don't like. I don't like Prabhuji.
No,
So, yeah. So,
I
yes,
don't like.
thank you.
I don't like that either. But I like challenging questions. It's also nice because then I don't know the answer. I'll go away and I'll look it up, and I always get the answer from Prabhupada somewhere.
You know what what I do if I'm facilitating a class and somebody asks a question which I don't know, I'll throw the question back to the person. I'll say, okay, we don't know the answer. You go look for your answer. I'll go look for my answer, and then we come back together. That's what I do.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
We're not measuring each other.
No.
We're going forward together in the mood of bhakti.
Yeah, Prabhuji, we come together, we learn together, we grow together. That's what I like. Thank you.
Very nice. Very nice. Thank you very much for that. I was in the last week. I went to the Balaji Mandir. It's a big mandir here in Birmingham. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. I mean, it's really, and the deities are stunning. I mean, really nice. But I just went, in my ordinary clothes, no tilak or anything like that. And again, nobody said boo. Nobody said hello, no prasadam, no nothing. So the next time I went in a dhoti. Wow, the difference.
Yes.
Everybody said, oh, he's ISKCON, he's ISKCON, he's ISKCON. I heard that from so many places. The pujari came out and gave me prasadam, gave me a garland, gave me flowers.
So you see one thing, Prabhupada said, never hide your identity. So you hid your identity first, you didn't get anything, you showed your identity, now you get everything.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Jai, Haribol.
Yeah, same experience about other temples and ISKCON temples, but I just remembered I was listening to one lecture. I forgot who was giving that lecture, but that devotee went to Chopati Mandir, and Radhanath Maharaj was chanting over there, and he was chanting over there. And then Radhanath Maharaj, in the middle of his chanting, told him, we are not an impersonal religion. We are very personalized. So at least we can say Hare Krishna to each other. So, I mean, that devotee obviously felt that, no, I cannot approach Maharaj because he's chanting. How can I do that? But Maharaj said that, no, we are very personal here. He set that example that even if I'm chanting, it's okay. You can just come and say Hare Krishna to me. More than chanting, he, I think, gave importance to the devotee. So that is the highest standard, I felt.
Yes, exactly.
The Maharaja always, all the Maharajas, they're always chanting, whether they are walking or they're sitting in a corner, but it's our duty to go and bow down to them and pay our respect to them. It doesn't matter. We won't disturb them. We have to do that.
Exactly. We feel that no, we shouldn't go, but he himself said no. This is a very personalized path, and if you are not personal with your mentor or anybody you respect, then how can you be personal with Krishna?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, I think we have really taken a lot of time. Sorry, Prabhuji, we have extended by 10 minutes, so I beg your forgiveness. And we will meet next Monday. Hare Krishna. Thank you so much for this excellent class. Arya Govind Prabhu, are you there? Can you just quickly close the session for us so that we can hear your voice as well?
Jai Prabhuji. Our ears, at least today, are not the snake holes. Our ears are filled with Srimad Bhagavatam Katha. Thank you so much, Prabhuji, for this wonderful session. Hari Bol, Hare Krishna. Let's chant Hare Krishna Mahamantra once in glorification of Vidura Prabhu.
Jai.
Hare
Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hari Bol. Vanchakalpatarubhascha
Kalpatarubhascha
Kripasindubivacha
Kripasindubivacha
Patitanam Pavanebhyo
Patitanam
Pavanebhyo
Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo
Vaishnavebhyo
namo.
Namo
Hari
Namaha.
Hari Bol. Thank you very much.
Grantara Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Ananta Koti
Jai.
Vaishnava ki jai, Srila Prabhupada
Jai.
ki jai,
Jai.
His Grace Vidura Prabhu ki jai.
Hari
Jai.
Hari Bol.
Yeah.
Good
Hari
night,
Bol.
everybody. Good night.
Good
Thank
night.
you.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hari
Hare
Bol.
Krishna.